Hey everyone, my name is Matt and welcome to M2 Expeditions. It's been a minute since I created a new video, but this is the reason why. I was gathering the materials necessary to build out the framing for the habitat. This was one of the most enjoyable projects on the truck because I was able to see significant progress towards the Overland camper build. Plus I learned how to weld, so that is always a win. The first part of this video will be a time lapse of the steel cutting and the welding of the habitat. During that time, I'm going to narrate the video with lessons learned and what the next steps are for the build. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Got it? That's it.
Here you're seeing me and my dad take off the swing doors for the military truck and then start unloading the steel that I got from Everett Steel. Now that we're removing all of the steel off of the truck, it is time to measure the steel posts and cut them to size. The saw that my dad is using here is from Harbor Freight and was $175. The saw itself was absolutely fine, but the blades that came with this saw was absolutely terrible. Luckily, when I was at Harbor Freight, I picked up a pair of steel cutting blades, which cut the steel like butter. My recommendation is to buy the more expensive blades to save yourself some heartache. The blades are about $60 to $70. But as you can see here, my dad has been cutting this piece of steel for about 20 to 30 seconds now and just finished. This little clip here is us actually changing out the Harbor Freight blade that came with the saw to the steel cutting blade. And my God, you're gonna see the difference. It's night and day. Watch here. So much quicker. All right, let's rip through some of these cuts. Now that we cut this steel to size, we're going to grind down some of the metal that has paint on it so that we can begin welding. The military truck came with a bit of steel in the front, so we decided to start in the front because of that. Here we're setting up the first post for the first weld. And here it is. This is the first weld of the first post for the habitat of the truck. Super exciting. The welder that we picked up for this build is from Harbor Freight and it's titanium. The reason why we got this specific model was it was 120 volt and 240 volt. All right, and this is my first ever weld, and you're going to see how bad it is. Once I got the concept of it, welding is not that difficult. You just have to understand what you're trying to achieve here with regards to the arc and melting the different steels into one. All right, by going back to the welder talk, the reason why we got the two different voltage type is because for the thickness of the steel that we were welding for the 3/16, and initially I planned on welding a 1/4 inch steel, the 240 volt is recommended so that the bond is more effective. Anything smaller than 3/16, you could use the 120 volt and it would be totally fine. My dad thought I looked funny here, so I wanted to keep this clip in here. All right, but the last thing about the welding, so we use MIG welding and we use the flux wire. So the reason why I use the flux wire is because I didn't want to deal with the gas and deal with like the bottle and hooking it up. I guess the one side effect of using the flux MIG wire is that the welds look a little bit dirtier, but once you clean them up and then grind them down, they look just as good as if you use the bottle. But that's kind of the thought process of why we use the MIG welding with the flux cord. So the way that we powered this specific welder is we use a generator. Luckily, my friend Mark, he had one that had the 240 volt and it was a lifesaver. Thank you, Mark. With the day 2 coming to a close, now it's time for day 3. Here's a little time lapse and a little bit of music. All right, we're gonna test the weld.
No. Dobre, ja widzę, że jest dobre. Dobrze smakuje.
All right, let's get back after it again. Welding complete. Now let's move the truck. Sorry about that, Mark. What's up, everybody? It's Matt from M2 Expeditions. We welded out the frame for the truck today with the help of my dad. Here's a first look. So we decided to use 2" by 1" channel. We thought it was going to be easier because once we put insulation in, it'll just be easier to slide in and it'll stay in place. And the sizes we used were 1/8 here for pretty much most of the frame. But then for like the thicker, more load bearing walls, we did 3/16. Just a little walk around. It's my dad in the distance. This 45 was a pain, but we eventually figured it out. Walls look pretty straight. Pretty good if you were to ask me. We did it. Now the next stage is paneling and roofing. All right, we'll do a walkthrough in the inside. All right, this is what it looks from the inside. Also is my welding job, so if this falls apart, it's totally my fault. Yep, so this box is about, the troop carrier part is about 14 feet, 14 and a half feet. Me and my dad made this base frame that added another 3 feet to get it to 17. And then this angled 45 gets us about 20, probably a little less. It's probably like 19 feet, 8 inches now. So we had to do some modification, but yeah, that's what the box looks like. Fully welded. We just have to do some touch-up work, like grind down the welds on the outside, prime them so they don't rust. And then I still have to hit the tops with some more welds. Besides that, that's it. Done with the frame. While I am playing around in my newly welded frame, I would like to thank two people during this part of the build. The first being my father. He took a week off from work, flew from Chicago to Washington State, and worked 16-hour days of hard labor to get this project done before he flew back. Can't say thank you enough, and I'm truly blessed to have a loving and caring father in my life. The second person I would like to thank is Mark and his family for allowing me to use part of their property for this build. Their hospitality and kindness was absolutely amazing, and I'm grateful for them being in my life. Can't say thank you enough, so thank you. All right, let's wrap this up.